John Leboutillier is a former member of the U.S. House of Representatives, and he joins us now on the line from New York State in the United States. John, thanks very much indeed for joining us. It's interesting that we are now assessing 100 days of Joe Biden. It seems to have happened quite quickly. He had to hit the ground running. And what would you give him as a grade, do you think, for his first 100 days?
Oh, Peter, I would give him an A-. I think he's off to a very strong start of his presidency because he, first of all, his contrast with Trump is all positive for him. He does not promise what he cannot deliver. He actually over-delivers on his promises. He has done a great job on the vaccine rollout and getting this thing turned around steadily in America. We've had our COVID cases have dropped 25% over the past 2 weeks. Our economy is growing at a 6.4% rate. So those are good indicators of the direction for the country and therefore good for Biden. I think he's off to a good start. A majority of Republican voters around the country support most of what he's trying to do, with the exception of immigration. On immigration, I give him a C-. I think he's stumbled on that one. But on the economy, on COVID, and on social programs, he's rolled them out very cleverly, very smartly, and he knows what he's doing. So I give him an A-, which is a darn good grade.
And approval ratings, I mean, they give us an idea of the sense of how people are feeling. How are they looking for him?
They're pretty good. I mean, he's over 50% in virtually every poll. In some cases, 59 or 60% before the speech last night. The speech last night will probably help his approval rating to go up even higher. And as the economy gets better, his approval rating will get better. We know historically a good economy helps the incumbent president. So I think if I'm Joe Biden, I feel pretty good about the direction of things after 100 days.
So one of the things that he said that he would do a lot more of is to restore bipartisan politics, reaching across the aisle and getting things done together. Do you think that he's made progress on that front, or are there just too many diehards on the other side of the aisle?
Well, rhetorically, he has said he's reaching out. He's had a few meetings in the Oval Office with Republican senators and Republican congressmen. Nothing has come of those meetings. There is no venom towards each other. You know, the 4 years of Trump were filled with venom back and forth. There is none of that with Biden. He is not speaking ill of the Republicans, and most Republicans are not speaking particularly ill of Biden either. So I think he's sort of kept his promise on that, but I don't think the Republicans are in a mood to work with Biden at all. That's a different topic. You know, the Republicans have basically no agenda. They stand, and I am a Republican, so it gives me some credibility to say what I'm going to say, that the Republicans don't know what they stand for anymore.
Right.
Under the last President Bush, George W., and then under Trump, they took the things they used to stand for the most, fiscal responsibility and maturity on foreign policy, and they blew both of them. And so now they really have nothing to stand for. It's a party without a position.
So he seems to be doing all the right things, and I suppose following Donald Trump makes his job a lot easier. He just doesn't have to drop the ball, and he'll look much better. I wonder, when we look at him now, because a lot of people thought when he was going in that he would be Obama Part 2. Has he set his own tone? Can we see what Joe Biden is about and the differences perhaps about his administration and what Obama did whilst Biden was vice president?
Yeah, it's a great question, Peter. I think this. I think the election of Obama was in itself a revolution. America electing a black man was revolutionary. And the actual Obama presidency itself was not particularly revolutionary, other than the implementation of Obamacare, a national health care plan. That was a big deal. But the rest of his 8 years were very competent, but not particularly revolutionary. Joe Biden, now it's only 100 days, so to compare 100 days to 8 years is a little difficult. But off of these first 100 days, what we're seeing is the revolution in the Biden administration is in these social programs that he is proposing. A little bit he already got in the COVID relief bill. He got $2 trillion for that, and he's now going for another $4 trillion that will change America forever on things like free community college, free universal pre-kindergarten education, more health insurance, affordable child care for working families, all families having access to paid family leave and medical leave. That's, pretty revolutionary in our system here. And he's pushing all of that for this year.
So the other thing that he wanted to do was to bring America back to the international community, because Donald Trump was all about hashtag America First. How do you think he's done in terms of foreign policy? There are two big powers that he's had to find ways to chart new relationships or conversations with, and I'm thinking about Russia and China.
Yeah, well, he's clearly differentiating himself in foreign policy from Trump across the board. He's being tough on Russia, which Trump was not. He's trying to be more friendly towards Europe and NATO and the European Union and all of that. His first trip is coming up in June to Britain and then Belgium, and maybe meet Putin during that trip. He has talked to President Xi of China twice. China has taken a more confrontational position towards the United States. And I think we're waiting to see how Biden's going to react to that. But Biden is a much tougher man, personally, than people realize. And if he gets his back up, he will react to things. And he seems like a nice guy. And he is. But I think he's a much tougher, combative person than people realize. And these foreign adversaries better realize that.
All right. And perhaps a final question. In the end, it's social issues that really do make the difference in how people feel and experience this new administration. Hashtag Black Lives Matter happened almost as he was coming into power. Donald Trump had a very definite view about how he dealt with race. And then you see Joe Biden phoning the family of George Floyd. And I wonder if that was a powerful moment in America, especially for African Americans and people of color, the way that he managed that scenario.
I think for them it was. I mean, the first thing he did in the campaign last summer, once he was effectively nominated, and remember he was living in his house in Delaware because of COVID, he never could go out. He got on a plane and went to Houston, Texas for the funeral of George Floyd. And so he has been very into the George Floyd case and the verdict last week when he made that phone call. And last night he called for the passage of the George Floyd Act by May 25th, which will be the one-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. I think for Black Americans, it's a big deal. And I hope they can get that law passed. Now, what it does politically for Biden, I'm not totally sure outside the black community. It may be that the white community thinks Biden is bending over backwards for black Americans too much. I don't know that, but I think it's something to watch.